Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, my guest is Christian Gearhart. We met many, many years ago. We were in the Navy together. We served on the MRS land in La Maddalena, Italy. I knew him casually. We weren't the closest of friends, but we do have mutual friends. I always thought he was a really nice guy, and everyone that I knew that knew him said the same thing. Because of the advent of social media, we were able to keep in contact. And like I said, we had most mutual friends. And then I learned of his spiritual practice. I ended up getting out of the Navy. I studied psychology and stuff like that. And I felt that spirituality is something that's really missing for a lot of people, not for everybody. So I wanted to have him on today as a guest to talk about his spiritual practices. Christian, can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Christian, and like Rich said, I was in the Navy for 8 years, and then when I got out, I kind of had an existential crisis, and I went on this long journey beginning in 2005, kind of just trying to figure out life, this whole life thing, you know, this whole life thing out. And I spent many years doing a lot of different kind of practices until I found one that worked for me. And ever since then, I've been practicing it. And I help run a business now, and I've been doing some other businesses and business startups as well.
Awesome, man. I, in the same way, have had some crises, and I was wondering, could you explain a little bit more about that? Like, what exactly you were going through?
Sure. When I got out of the Navy, I wasn't really prepared for the psychological impact that was going to have on me. I was in the Navy for 8 years, and I really, I really took on that identity of being a sailor, and I really loved it. And I mean, it was my entire life. I was
Mm.
Petty Officer Gearhart, Navy journalist.
Huh?
Yeah, and when I got out, I was unemployed for about a year afterwards, and that was the first time in my life that I had that much free time on my hands to really kind of do a lot of personal reflection and introspection. And immediately when I got out, like I said, I had this like who am I personality crisis, and I didn't
Right.
know who I was anymore. I didn't have an identity, and it really threw me for a loop. And I got really depressed, and I was really scared because I didn't know what I was going to do. My plans for when I got out fell through, and so then I was just unemployed and looking for work for a year. And that was during the time. Um, that was around the time when the markets crashed, and it was pretty tough for everybody. And so uh, I can't remember why, but I started reading books on philosophy, on religion. I got into meditating, and I was reading books like I read. One of my favorites was Autobiography of a Yogi, which got me into the it was the first my first um, exposure to the kind of like paranormal supernatural aspect of spirituality, which up to that point I really didn't have any kind of connection with it. I had kind of a sour taste in my mouth from my childhood and the religion that I was brought up in, and I didn't really want to have anything to do with it or spirituality or religion or anything like that. And autobiography yogi of a yogi was my first kind of like real exposure to the mystical side of spirituality and of life. And so that opened me up to that, and I started doing a lot of seeking. I was, I read Siddhartha on Buddhism and a lot of other different books. I got into different meditation programs and technology. Like there was a program called Holosync, a meditation program that you listen to it, a CD, and
Mm,
it was binaural beats. It wasn't that big back then, back in 2005, but now it's more of a common thing now, and it
okay.
basically synced the hemispheres of your brain to uh, mimic the brain waves of longtime life meditators.
Hmm.
And I did that for about a year, and that entire time I was scared. I couldn't find any work, and I ended up at my friend David's house. You know David
Yeah,
from the
that's our
show.
mutual friend. Yeah,
Yeah,
David. Yeah.
he was a journalist as well, and I ended up staying with him at his house. His wife was in Iraq, and but he was in California, and so I went and visited him, and we were both unemployed, so we kind of like shared in the fear together. We really bonded
Yeah.
during that time,
Right.
and I don't know. One day he just comes up to me out of nowhere, and he plops this National Geographic Adventure magazine
Oh, wow.
on my lap, and he says, "You got to read this article on shamanism." And it kind of and and I was surprised because I knew him for about 8 years previous in the Navy, and he was always reading all these different books,
Yes, he does.
and never once did he say to me, "You got to read this book. You got to check this out."
Right.
But this one day he was adamant that I had to read this article on shamanism, and I didn't even know what shamanism was, and so I was a little bit resistant, but he kept at it, and it might have been not even like a day or two later that I actually read it, and I read this National Geographic article on this um, shamanic a plant medicine center in Peru called Blue Morpho. And immediately, within like reading the first couple of paragraphs, I was just completely absorbed in it, and I knew I wanted to go try this thing out. Specifically, the writer was talking about a plant medicine tea that the natives used in Peru called ayahuasca,
Yes.
and she talks about her really miraculous healing journey, and cured her of depression in only about like a week of work with this plant. And immediately I was just like totally kind of like drawn to it, and I knew I needed to try it out because I'd been trying all these different programs, and my experience of them all was that each new thing that I would try would work for a month or two, and I would be totally stoked about it. And in my head, like, this is the new thing. I'm healed, miraculous. And then, a month or two into it, I would kind of just be back to where I started from. And then I would look for the next thing, and then it would be the new thing. And that would last for a couple of months. And then I would again find myself back into the depression and kind of not feeling fulfilled, and I would go to the next thing. And so I was kind of felt backed in the corner because I was, like I said, I was depressed. I had realized that I had a lot of undiagnosed mental illnesses like anxiety, PTSD, depression, like I said, some mild addictions. I would even I would even say I had a mild form of schizophrenia that I think now that everybody has, where you hear a voice in your head that just talks shit about you all day long and everything you're doing.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had that, and I was really aware of it. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was wrong, and I knew I needed some help, but I didn't know how to get it. At the time, during that time, depression and PTSD and all those things weren't really talked about that much. And I would say now, in hindsight, I would say that a lot of my time in the Navy, I was depressed but didn't know about it. And I didn't know that I could ask for help. I didn't know to ask for help. It wasn't really something that we really talked about back then. And so I was really desperate. And when I read this article, it was immediately like, this was my last ditch effort. This could be, if this doesn't help me, I might even kill myself, because I was really down and low.
Wow. Sorry to hear that, man.
No, it's okay. It's just the past.
Yeah.
So that was in November 2006, and at the time I was unemployed, and all I had were my kind of like personal possessions. And I knew I wanted to go try this therapy, but it was going to cost an airplane flight and the flight for the treatment and everything, and I was concerned about that. But literally, all these synchronicities started happening for me, and in January 2007, 2 months later, I was in Peru for my first ayahuasca treat at Blue Morpho.
Wow.
Hmm.
Before we move on with the story, I just want to share a couple of thoughts.
Sure.
I definitely want to hear how that went. So I got to say that, when I knew you back then, we didn't work together. We might have had a conversation or two here and there by the time we were there, but I always got a sense that there was something going on with you, that you had like sort of a sadness, I would say. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't know your life. I didn't know what was going on.
I would say
Um,
that's fair. That's
yeah,
a fair assessment.
but with that, like I knew a lot of people who knew you, and it was always just positive, man. Like, oh, he's a real good guy, and stuff like that. So what I wanted to say was that there's a term that a lot of people use is, that person's a lost soul. And I think at that time, maybe I would have used that to describe you, even though I didn't really know you that well. But through my journeys through life, I don't use that term anymore, a lost soul, because I've come to believe that every human being is a lost soul. So what do I mean by that, right? We're born into this world with no memory of where we came from before that, and no idea of why we're even here. That's how you're born. That's how we come in.
Well,
Things
I don't
things come in.
really want to remember how I came here was through the vaginal canal of my mother. I don't know if I want to remember
That's
that.
not what I meant. That's not what I meant. But the point is, to say that someone is a lost soul is sort of, you're ignoring that everyone came into this world in that way. And that's sort of the tricky part about this world. Like, we don't know where we came from before we woke up into this world, and we don't really know why we're here. So by those definitions, every
And we have
person
no
is a lost
idea
soul.
where we're going either.
And where we're going, yeah, exactly, man. So I think that's why spirituality, I think, science is great. I believe in science and stuff like that. But there's bigger, deeper questions going on within everybody that we don't have all the answers for. And maybe, a lot of the spirituality is, another way of, answering these questions. Whether they're right or wrong, they give you something that can help you move along in your life and give you purpose.
Yeah, I think that's what the original mysticism was kind of the original science
Right.
before the actual practice of science began. And the mystics were trying to do their best to try and figure out and understand this life universe, what's going on, and nobody even back then really knew what was going on, and we still don't really know what's going on. We know a little bit more. Science has helped us out a lot with the physical aspect of
Right.
life in the universe, but it hasn't really dealt with this non-tangible spiritual, unexplainable aspect of life in the universe.
Yeah, the X factor is what I call it. The sort of the unknown. Like when they talk about, scientists talk about dark matter or dark energy. It's sort of that thing that we know something is out there, but we don't know what that is.
Totally. Yeah, I
So
agree.
so I want to go back. You're talking about your story, how you happen to be with David, and he just kind of put this thing on you, this article. And a few years, I'm gonna say about maybe 25 years ago, I read a book, and just a throwaway line in a book, really. But sometimes certain lines, certain moments in your life stick with you forever. And the line was, I went on this vacation. I met this particular person. I think it was the girl he was dating's father, and they broke up like right after this vacation. But I only met this girl, started dating her, and went on this trip so that I can meet her father, is what the guy said in the book. Because that changed his life. He stopped dating the person. But I feel like there's many moments like that in life where you don't know why you're there. I After I left Italy, I went to San Diego, and after San Diego, I went to Connecticut, and I didn't know why I went to Connecticut, but it was really close to home, so I just kind of assumed that that was why. And then one day, right before I was about to transfer from Connecticut, um, my niece took a fall down the stairs, And I heard her when she started the fall. She was like maybe 2 years old. And I ran and I got there right at the end, right before her head was about to hit the concrete. I
Wow.
didn't stop her from falling, but my hand cradled the back of her head. And I felt, I'm getting emotional. Think about it. I felt like, you know what? This is why I was here.
Yeah, if
This is
you
why I came
weren't
here.
there, if you didn't make the decisions and all the life events leading up to that didn't happen exactly as they did, she might have not survived.
Yeah. Or been seriously hurt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take us to Morpho, man. You get there now. What happens? Tell us.
Well, that was the first time I'd been to Peru. That was a big adventure for me, and my first time in the Amazon rainforest, which was really amazing. And so I go out there and I meet the founder of Blue Morpho, Hamilton Souther, who at the time I met him had already been a master shaman for a couple years already. And I met him, and I met the indigenous shaman. He worked with two indigenous shamans. One of them died of old age right before I went and did my journey there the first time. And he worked with the other indigenous master shaman he worked with, named Maestro Danoberto Torres Davila, who was a master shaman. He was in his late 50s when I met him, and he first became a master shaman when he was around 18 years old. So he had been practicing for many, many, many years in the rainforest in a very, very remote village in the jungles of Peru. And he was and is a master of the cornucopia of plants found in the Amazon rainforest. I mean, you can just walk into the rainforest and find hundreds and hundreds of different varieties of medicinal plants, and and use them to cure many, many different ailments. And so he was working with Hamilton at the time, and I went out there and I met both of them, and I spent a week with them at their center in the rainforest. I did 5 ceremonies, and it was it was everything that I had hoped and way more. I mean, I really didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into, and anybody who has drank ayahuasca will tell you that nothing really can prepare you for that experience. It is really a life-changing, brain chemistry, mind-altering experience. And within these 5 ceremonies, I got insights into my life. It opened up my perception to all these different aspects of life and spirit that I never really had any connection to. I was very, and still am, a cynic. And but the Aya really opened my eyes that there's something else going on behind the scenes that we really don't understand. And even to this day, you know, I'll tell you more of the story, but I've been now training in this art for over 10 years, and still really we don't understand it. We've really only touched the tip of the iceberg.
Wow, that's crazy. Can you share a little bit more about these insights that you and perceptions?
Yeah, the ayahuasca experience is interesting. When you drink the ayahuasca, it takes about, well, I don't want to say a half hour to an hour to begin to start kicking in. And the shamans begin doing their work. They sing these, what they call icaros, or medicine songs and chants. And they say that they activate the energies of this experience. And little by little, the lights are out and all you can hear is the rainforest, and they're singing these shamanic chants. And immediately, like in my head, I start getting scared because
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of nowhere in the jungle with these guys, and
All right.
all the most scary paranoid thoughts are now coming on.
Yeah.
um and little by little by little, you start seeing these lights and colors and patterns, and you get like a flushing feeling in your body. And then it just keeps on coming on and coming on and coming on and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then literally, like, the whole entire space around you opens up into this, like, pixelized fiber optic like rainbows of geometric patterns just everywhere, all
Whoa.
around you. And like shapes start beginning to form, and you literally start like seeing beings coming out of these shapes. And the geometric patterns are like changing to the songs of these shamans. Like they're literally like guiding the energies of space, and you can see it in your visions. And they'll like call, they'll change the Ikaro of the song that they're singing. All of the patterns and pixels all change, and these new beings come out, and they literally like walk out of these patterns, and they're like these literally like these doctors and nurse spirits coming out, and they start working on your body like literally like an operating room. It's freaking wild.
Whoa. Yeah, that's crazy.
And I remember like in my first ceremony, I was lying there, and they told me to like I hear a voice in my head, like this is like telepathy from these spirits. So these
Hmm.
doctor spirits appear. They tell me to lie on my back, on my stomach, and I lie on my stomach, and they start doing surgery on my back, like literally like sawing my back open, opening up my the back of my rib cage, and they pulled out this like I don't know, like black swirling energy out of my back,
Hmm.
and then took it away, closed my back up, and then all of a sudden, all of these like rushes and insights into my past, my childhood, things that happened to me in my past that I've never even thought about before, traumatizing things that happened to my life that I've repressed came up, and I like I saw them for what they were, and then released them and let them go. And this happened for hours and hours and hours and
Wow.
hours. And the thing with Aya is interesting is that it's not just like, it doesn't happen linearly like a story in like a movie where you're like watching a movie. It's like all of the, it's like thousands and thousands of experiences happening all at once, and you're feeling them, and you're smelling them, and you're seeing them, and your mind's going 1,000 miles per hour processing them, and it's all happening all at once. And this and this is like, this is all happening all at once, and this goes on for 4 straight hours. And they say in one ceremony, ayahuasca can be like a year to 10 years of actual like therapy in the Western world.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and it was pretty crazy. Uh, and then you just keep having visions after visions. It's like in the movies when you see just like thousands of these images all just appearing in your face, just for seconds, and just thousands and thousands and thousands, and these all these different feelings about it, and anger and sadness and doubt, and then it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until you can't take it anymore, and then you just puke your guts up. You just, and you, the shamans call it purging, that you're releasing these
Yeah.
afflicting energies that no longer serve you, the
Hmm.
depression, the anger, the sadness. And then once you do that, the when you purge all that, leading up to the purge, it gets more and more and more turbulent and chaotic, and then you purge all this into the bucket, and then immediately your visions open up into these like just beautiful geometric patterns of just pure light, and you experience this like pure bliss and this like total connection to God. I remember one of my ceremonies, I had this heart opening experience where my heart opened up, and like just love poured out of my heart and filled my body, and then filled the room around me, and then filled the rainforest, and then covered the earth and covered the universe. Just like amazing experiences, just over and over and over again. And it was like this cyclical thing where you have this build up to where all of these negative energies in you, like you said, like the sadness and the depression and all that, builds up, builds up, builds up, and then you purge it, and then just it's just more like divinity and love opens up, and more spirits coming up, and like ancestors come, and it's totally, it was like nothing really can prepare you for it. And I was totally blown away, totally impressed. And I'd gotten that week everything that I went there for, or at least I thought I did that week.
Right.
And
Okay.
then
Go ahead.
uh yeah, and then I was super excited to go back home at the end of the week and start my new life. And within like a week or two, I'd gotten a job, and I'd moved across country to start the job, and
Wow.
I was totally stoked.
Yeah, man.
And So I got into my routine with work and back into my life and back into the mundane, and little by little by little by little, my old habits and patterns started kind of like
Yeah,
creeping
they're hard
back
to break.
in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then within 2 to 6 months, I was depressed again, and I had my anxiety back, and you know, I still had the memory of those experiences, but I needed help again.
Hmm.
And so within a year after going back to Peru the first time, I was back there again, um, basically a year later, and it was in my second ceremony at the retreat that I got that the spirits came to me, and I had the realization that I wanted to learn what they were doing.
Mm. To become a healer.
Yeah, I saw that there was something in that. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what shamanism was. I didn't understand what the ayahuasca was doing, but I saw that there was something really important within that whole experience that was important for me to learn, very important for me to learn. So I asked Maestro Hamilton, the owner of Blue Morpho, and Maestro Alberto if they would teach me, and they said that they would, but that I would have to fulfill these kind of like stipulations of apprenticeship. Like I would have to be self-sufficient. I had to
Right,
learn Spanish to a proficiency of being able to go out there and live and things like that.
right.
And so I went back to the U.S. and that was the end of 2007. And I got a new job because I wasn't, I didn't love the job I had. And I mean, that was one of the things I wanted to change in my life, was to get a job that I liked,
Right.
and I felt, was meaningful to me. And so I found a new job working for a public relations firm on the other side of the country. And so I started working with them, but with all the while the intention to literally leave my life here in the U.S. to go learn this art that I didn't even really understand or know anything about, but I felt like completely compelled to go learn. And so between the end of 2007 until 6 months into 2010, I worked for this company, but all the while getting more and more anxious about how I was going to go do this, because I didn't have enough money to go live in
Hmm.
Peru.
Hmm.
And so finally, literally, I had this just random, like I had a dream, and these spirits came to me and told me to ask my boss if I could do telecommuting work and basically move to Peru and keep working for them while I did my apprenticeship in Peru.
Right.
And so the next day, I set up a lunch meeting with my boss, and I sat down with him, and I explained to him that I wanted to move to Peru and begin this apprenticeship deep in the Amazon rainforest and work with these indigenous shamans to teach me how to work with this plant, which was pretty much mostly unknown at the time. It was just starting to become known, and uh, without even blinking an eye, he said, "Yeah, sure, let's make it happen."
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, it was
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, all
I'm
these
so
little
glad.
synchronicities kept happening afterwards to keep getting me out there. Like that was like
Like
what
you
I
were
was
on the
supposed to
right
be doing.
path.
Exactly, exactly. It was
Yeah.
like finally I found, uh, I got on the right path, the right track finally, and just like literally, just like all the obstacles and barriers to it opened up for me. Every time I didn't have enough money to get out there, something would happen, and the exact amount of money I needed to
Wow.
go out there would come to me. And this just kept happening over and over and over again. And so, I just kept getting more and more confirmation that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So in October 2010, I moved to Peru, and I did a Spanish intensive in Arequipa, Peru for 2.5 months. And then at the end of 2010, I began my apprenticeship at Blue Morpho.
Okay, so before we continue with that story, I want to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Um, I think this is the question, I guess. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Uh-oh.
When you have these experiences, right? You know, you're seeing all this stuff going on. These people are working on you, like you said, like kind of like surgery. Do you think this is really happening, or is this your subconscious healing us?
I had that. Yes, I have those thoughts, had those thoughts, and still have them. I'm very kind of grounded about my experiences, and uh,
It doesn't even matter. You
well,
know what I mean?
no, yeah, I know the mind wants to try to like rationalize and prove things. It's not provable either way.
Right.
But I
Yes.
think what's important is that I did have those experiences. I didn't make them up.
Hmm.
Uh, Whether they were created by my brain or whether they were really spirits coming to me is not answerable. But what's important is that after those experiences, my life was changed, like really was changed. And
Yeah.
I really did forgive a lot of the past kind of transgressions and PTSD of my past. It made me able to connect with people on a deeper level. It made me less fearful about death.
Mm.
It completely changed my kind of relationship with the afterlife and what
Wow.
happens after we die. I was terrified of death before, and now I'm not afraid of it anymore. And the sacred plants were helpful for me in that regards.
It sounds like the average person could probably achieve what you're talking about, but that the plants are sort of like the thing that helps make that happen a little quicker. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think they're a tool and an accelerant to this kind of growth. And when I was coming up in meditation and reading about Buddhism, in order to achieve these kind of states of uh, mystical understandings, you had to go live in a cave for 10, 20, 30 years, and
Right.
you wouldn't attain those until you're in your 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And I was in my mid 30s, and I couldn't wait that long. And I'm not saying that the plants are a cure all for everything, and
Yeah. There's still some work you got to do, right?
totally. And you have to actually do the work in ceremony as well. The plants
Hmm.
fulfill intention. So if you go into the ceremony with the intention of learning these things, and the plants will do their best to fulfill it. But if you just are just taking them and running around the city or whatever, you might not have the same exact experience.
Wow, man, this is great.
And I actually did a experiment with psychedelics when I was younger, right out of high school.
Right.
But I didn't have any kind of training. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't have any kind of near the experience I had when I was in a controlled state with like professionals who were trained for, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in guiding people through these experiences. And it was a totally different experience for me going in with, you know, the space set guided by master shamans and with my own intentions and of healing. Whereas before, I didn't even know like I could take this thing and use my intention to, you know, try and to help heal my depression, to get answers and insights into my life, to heal PTSD and all. I didn't know anything about that. It was just more. It was a party recreational thing back then.
Yeah, I really want to do this. I think I saw a documentary or heard somebody talking about it in a podcast exactly what you're talking about it. And then I remember you posting something about it on Facebook, and I was like, "Wow, I'm gonna get with this guy. I'm gonna reach out to him." This is before I decided to do a podcast. I think I sent you a message actually. I was like, "Hey, I heard that you're doing this, and I really want to do it." And you were like, "Hey, just let me know."
Yeah.
I do really want to experience that. Okay, so I did something else though, because you mentioned something about having like those negative voices in your head, and I've that's something that I've dealt with too in my life. I don't think a lot of people would recognize that in me, but there's many times that I don't know if it's a form of schizophrenia or whatever, but yeah, I've had points where I just felt like nobody likes me. There's something that I want to do that I can't do, and it's literally sometimes it's just a feeling, but there's been times, especially here and there where it's like you feel like there's someone in your head telling you that. Can you share your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if medical science would call it schizophrenia, but that's kind of like my how I see it. It's a
Right.
mild form of schizophrenia where you're hearing a voice in your head, but it's your voice,
Yeah.
and it's your voice beating you up, saying, my friend and my friend Hamilton and I joke around that it's like this demented ESPN announcer just constantly doing play by play, but just talking nothing but shit about everything you do. And
Fuck
that
that
was
guy.
like literally every moment of my day, and I couldn't stop it, and I didn't know how to stop it.
Yeah. And that's when the you had thoughts of suicide around that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh,
Are you comfortable sharing that?
sure. I would have, you know, I've been having cyclical depression, probably at least since high school, but I would say before that, I had a head injury when I was a kid.
Mm,
I was at a block party riding on my big wheel. I was really, small, 4 or 5 years old, and I
right.
flipped the big wheel and hit my head on a cement curb. And the only thing I remember is waking up in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And
Oh, you
from
hit
that,
that pretty hard. Wow.
yeah, and from that point on, I had learning disabilities, I had dyslexia, I had all kinds of problems in school. But again, this was the things I experienced weren't really things that anybody talked about or really knew about back then, and so I was just like dealing with it, but not really knowing something was wrong. And I suffered with depression and suicidal thoughts through in high school, and when I joined the Navy for a while, it went away, and I had thought that it might go away, and then just like this freak accident happened when I was in A school, in journalism A school, and I was with a petty officer, another journalist, and we were doing a job, and we were packing up the job and getting ready to go home, and he accidentally slammed the gate of the van down on my head and literally almost knocked
Oh.
me out to where like it was the first time that I saw like the cartoon stars like all around,
Oh,
and I got
geez.
a concussion. But at that time you just like laugh it off and go about your day.
Right.
And then the depression, cyclical depression, started back up, and it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And by the time that you and I met on the MRS land in La Maddalena, it was really bad. And I spent most of my time when I was there. I was super depressed. I did have suicidal tendencies, anxiety, and all that, but I just pushed through it, pushed through it as much as I could. And I was functional, but inside I was dying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough thing, man. When I would deal with clients, when I was an intern psychotherapist, guys who were going or gals who were going through that thing, it's hard for people who don't feel that way to kind of understand. It's like, well, you seem okay, but it's like, yeah, I'm going through the motions and I'm trying my best to keep my head above water, but on the inside, it's just it feels like life isn't what it should be. Would you say that's accurate?
Totally. People would always, I would tell people that I was insecure and that I wasn't happy, and they'd be like, "No way, man!" And I would tell them that I was barely able to function on a daily basis, and they were like, "No way, man! You're the guy we look up to, right, on
Yeah.
a daily
Right.
basis." And like, and
Yeah.
in my head it was like, "Whoa, man, you guys don't even know."
Yeah.
But somehow I was able to function. But it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And during that time, like I said, after the Navy, I spent that kind of like entire year while I was job hunting, just doing introspection and reflecting on my own internal functionings and workings. And uh, you know, something was wrong. I knew something was terribly wrong, but I didn't know what to do.
Okay. I want to share something with you, what I call functioning, because that's a word that we use a lot. Um, I was kind of in a bad place before the military, and it was great, man. My first four, because I did 4 years there in La Maddalena, and so I was happy. I was a pretty happy person there, but I think it wasn't sustainable. And here's why: because I was just partying. I was going out drinking and whoring, basically,
Yeah,
just
we were around that age in our
yeah, sleeping
20s.
around, yeah,
Yeah.
and a girl. I don't. I wish I remember who it was. I think I know who it was. If I ever get her on the show, I'll talk to her. She said she said to me something about I'm paraphrasing here. Something like, your whole life, what you do is just you go out, you party, and you hook up. Until she said that, I thought everything in my life was fine. And it was like a seed she planted in the back of
She
my mind.
just sledgehammered you.
Yeah. No, it was slow. It was very slow, man. It was a slow burn. It was kind of like, whatever, dude. Like I'm young and I'm just doing my thing. When I leave, it'll change. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Eventually I'll meet that right person. But if I would have kept on that course, I never would have changed. So maybe she did me a big favor. My
Mm.
last year there wasn't as good as the first three, probably because I was thinking like, well, where am I going to go from here? And so I think that we could be happy we could do something for a while and it works, but it's not sustainable. Do you ever have anything like that that you were doing that kind of worked for you, but you just are like, man, I can't keep doing this?
Yeah, I mean, being in our 20s, all of your peers are in your 20s, and in your 20s, you're a little more party oriented
Yeah. Oh,
and a
yeah.
little more carefree. And, you know, I never really got super deep into the party scene. I never really felt comfortable in it, and I never really was that social. I'm more of a solitary kind of person. But I mean, I tried all that stuff out, and I did the, going out to nightclubs and getting drunk, and I didn't do a whole lot of whoring. I wasn't really that great with
The
the
ladies.
female, the ladies. No, I wasn't that great, which I guess was kind of a godsend in that I didn't do too much whoring because of that, because I probably would have, knowing the 20-year-old libido.
Right.
Um, but just so I tried all of it out, but none of it ever really felt right. But there weren't any real examples of anything else
Hmm.
coming up. There weren't any like, and this is not to knock anybody. I didn't have any like real great stable role models in my life. I
Yeah.
didn't have any like examples of any other alternative things to do other than that. It was just, okay, well, it's the weekend and this is what you do,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly. And that's
Um,
another thing I think. So one of the big themes in my podcast is that I think there is something wrong with our society. It's beyond politics. It's beyond religion. It's some sort of like I think we're sick. We have some sort of ailment because the rates of depression and anxiety. I think people basically aren't really happy. We could do things to sort of mask this ailment to feel great, but in a whole, I don't think if we continue on this path, I don't think it's sustainable. So with that, I want to say that my app is not working. I'm not recording, so I'm really gonna need you to send me that
yeah,
recording.
all right, I got it. I got you. We're good.
But before we end this, man, do you have any thoughts on that? So how do we move forward? Because when I studied psychology and my wife studied sociology, today there's a lot of the spirituality has been taken out of it. It's become really rigid, very science oriented, fact based. You hear that term a lot, which is fine, but a lot about like what I said. I mean, we're born into this world lost. We don't have any maps or anything. We're kind of creating all this. And science, like you said, it does a great job. It doesn't explain everything. How can we get back? How can we integrate all this positiveness from spirituality to help improve our society? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Hamilton and I have done many, many years of mapping the brain, our own brains, and we've worked with many thousands of people from all over the world in these different sacred plant scenarios. And
When you say mapping, do you mean like actual MRI type things
no,
or
internally mapping and understanding our own psyches and how our own psyches work,
your
and
journey?
also also internally mapping the how the psyches of all these different people from all over the world work, their psyches work as well. And it's like the conclusion that I've come to, and I call it our species is afflicted with a psychic illness or a psychic virus.
Oh, tell me more
And it
about
has
that.
to do with the core philosophies of the species. It has to do with the core ideologies of the species. It has to do with the core languages of the species.
Uh-huh.
And until we address them and change all of them to something that's healthy for us and not dissociative, everything's going to keep getting worse.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. I
Yeah.
hope I'm wrong, but from what I can tell in the investigating and studying I've been doing, it's not.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could sustain for many more years. I mean, think about it. The species can survive. We survived through a whole bunch of mess. The fact that human beings are still alive is actually a testament to our biology.
Well, especially through the Cold War.
Yeah, I mean, just through anything. I mean, so if I think I guess what I'm saying is, what is life? Because you could be alive physically, but not on you could be completely dead on the inside.
Well,
So that's
biologically
what I'm worried
alive,
about.
but not consciously alive.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going through the motions, and I think we could live a long time. Our species could continue maybe forever that way, but it wouldn't really be a good existence, you
Well,
know?
I think we have to address this issue that we're having, or it's not going to be good for our species. I think we have to overcome uh, these separating ideologies we have, like, us versus them, my country
Yeah.
versus your country, black versus white. The color
Liberal
thing is
versus
just like,
conservative.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all of it. No, we're human beings, and we're made of earth, and earth is made of the sun, and the sun is made of the galaxy, and the galaxy is made of the universe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not I am an American and you're Chinese or you're Russian and therefore we're against each other and we're separate. No, we're all made of the same thing. We're
Yeah.
all made of the same universe. We need to wake up and start working together.
Yeah,
We're
it's cosmic dust.
Yeah, exactly. We're made of that. You and I are made of it. Every person that's listening to this is made of it. We're all made of the same stuff.
Yeah. There's the comedic actress Lily Tomlin. This is where I heard this quote from. I'll share it with you. She says that this thing life, we're all going through it together, and none of us are getting out of it alive.
Thank
So
goodness.
yeah, it's like, hey, you gotta, but when you put things in that perspective, like no one's better than anyone. No one knows more than anyone. That's what I was talking about coming into this world with no memory of where you were before, and no idea of why you're here. And anyone who tells you that they know for 100% certainty, which is why I like a lot of the statements that you said, like, I'm not 100% sure. I doubt this and that. I, I think that says a lot to you. It's a testament to your intellect, because yes, you're into this, yes, you're practicing it, but you're not 100% sure about how and why. And those people out there who say that they are, man, that's a scary thing for me.
Yeah, the way I look at it is that, you know, people who say that they've had near-death experiences and they know what happens after death, and there are
Hmm.
people who just say they know what happens after death. And uh, my point is that when you're dead, you're dead. You don't come back to life.
Exactly.
So nobody knows what happens in that point. So we know what happens when someone is clinically dead,
Right.
right? Those people share their experiences, but we don't really know if that even really is dead. Was the body really dead, or do we just not have the technology yet to detect those faint signals in the body?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, not to discount anything that those people said, but I have not had those experiences.
Right.
I have had similar ones in ceremonies with sacred
Right.
plants, which have opened my perception to there being something on the other side. And I do believe that death is not the end. It's similar to a birth. It's just
Yeah.
a birth into something
New
else.
beginning.
Correct. But we don't know what that means. We have no idea what that means, and I'm okay with that. If we were supposed to know, we would know, but we don't.
Exactly, brother. Hey, this was great, man. Thanks a
Yeah, it was
lot.
great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm definitely gonna need you to send me this recording, though.
I certainly will right after this.
I appreciate it, man. How was it for you?
Great. Great.
Awesome, man. Let's do it again, because I like your inputs
Yeah,
on
sure.
stuff,
Let's
man.
see if your listeners are even interested, and if they are, we'll do it again sometime.
So, and you have your own podcast?
I don't have a podcast Right now, because of COVID, our operation in Peru is completely shut down, and
Oh yeah.
so we haven't been able to work with anybody. And we have a pretty large community, 10, 20,000 people.
Yeah. Wow.
And they during the COVID shutdowns, everybody was having a crisis. It was intense,
Yeah.
and so to connect with everybody and help all the people that we've worked with and the new people, we've created an online retreat where we connect with people from all over the world on these weekend retreats. We do shamanic dietas, which are shamanic technology,
Yeah.
where you ingest medicinal plants that are available locally and legal, and work with them similarly that we do with the sacred plants to enact healing and change in your life and things like that. And we teach you how to do that in a retreat, and people are getting great benefit from it. And we have a community, a growing community on Telegram that we all connect and interact with each other, and it's really nice. And
That's
that's
awesome,
one
man.
of the things I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I have
Hey,
a whole
if
lot of plates spinning right now.
yeah, if sharing this with anyone, feel free, man. I give you authorization to share this video and this audio with
Sure.
anyone you think it might be helpful with.
If anyone listening is interested, our website is
Oh yes, thank you.
bluemorphoretreats.world.
Yeah.
And check us out. If you're interested in joining us, don't hesitate. And if you're experiencing financial distress because of COVID or the economy or whatever, that's okay too. We offer scholarships
Okay.
and for anybody, no matter what your financial situation is. If you even if you're broke and destitute, we'll let you join us. We take donations to help support us and our scholarships, and no one will be turned away due to lack of finances.
That's awesome, and I'll definitely try to share your link to that when I finally post this.
Great. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Yeah. Take care, Rich.
Bye bye.